Hey everybody. Well, allow me to introduce our final speaker today, Leen Segers. Leen is a Brussels-based software entrepreneur and WebXR expert. Since 2011, she has been focused on the democratization of media across platforms and devices, which led her to start her company LucidWeb in 2016. LucidWeb is a deep tech startup that specializes in WebXR. Today, Leen will share with us how LucidWeb has been working with VR film festivals, allowing the industry to continue pushing boundaries even amidst challenging times.
Hi, my name is Leen Segers and I'm founder and CEO of LucidWeb. I'm very delighted to have been asked to be a speaker today at the WebXR Day. So maybe a little bit more about me and the company. So we're based in Brussels. We're a team about 10 people in total. We've been working in the space in WebVR and WebAR since 2017. Initially starting more in custom development solutions, responding to specific requests from brands, but slowly moving our technology into a scalable platform, a self-serving platform, so people can easily make use of WebXR. So a bit more in that in a second. Me, I have a background in online video, in 2D online video, so flatties. I've been working in London and it was also very much focused on accessibility of 2D video. So the company I worked for is called Cultura, and afterwards Saffron Digital, and both were focusing on 2D video in the browser. So I moved back to Brussels, Belgium, and then I met Fabien Benitou, which you might all know, who is now working with the Commission, but we co-founded LucidWeb together. Both of us truly convinced about the power of the browser. Um, After we split ways and I kind of set up a technical team from scratch again in 2018. So here we are. LucidWeb Pro has been launched officially in 2019, but they're actually rolling out for everyone to use only in October 2020. I will tell you a bit more about that in a second. So first of all, what I will do is share my screen. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details because I guess the other speakers will cover this as well in detail. Yes, the company has been focused as well on WebVR and WebAR. With the launch of LucidWeb Pro, we have moved 100% back to WebVR. So why are we a strong advocate of browser-based virtual reality? The fact that basically in one click you can have access to an experience. So you create a direct line from the content to the consumer. You can create an instant wow effect, which results in the highest possible return on investment for publishers investing in a VR story or campaign. We have a mobile first approach. So although we do feel like virtual reality needs to be, or ideally needs to be viewed or experienced in a headset, we also think that nowadays it is key for people to have a direct access as well to the experience on a mobile phone. It's less ideal. Of course, you can look around or you can tap and drag and drop. It's less ideal on a mobile phone, but I do think in terms of awareness and in terms of triggering the consumer into understanding that there's 3D available on your phone, I think it's an important step that as a publisher you cannot afford to miss. So I talked a couple of seconds before about LucidWeb Pro. So LucidWeb Pro is the SaaS platform that we have been working on. So you can actually today set up a free trial account and you can do a couple of activities, upload a video, add your logo, and then create a URL. And then this URL becomes available on 3 devices: on smartphone, desktop, and VR headset. The platform is designed for companies that want to brand the player themselves. So we give the option of the logo, but as well the colors of the buttons, for example, the buttons in 2D, but also the buttons in 3D. So the control menu when you're inside VR and watching the experience. Today I'm going to focus the talk on the offering that we have developed as a consequence of COVID. As I mentioned, the platform went live in a full alpha mode in October, November 2020. So basically still in the middle of COVID, or we're still in COVID, but that definitely was, I think for Belgium, the second wave. The initial idea for LucidWeb Pro was basically to allow agencies, companies with a decent amount of 360 content to facilitate them on the distribution level. So we were talking to media brands, to agencies. We had a lot of brainstorm sessions planned, and then of course COVID happened. So we continued with the development of LucidWeb Pro, but at that point in time, over summer already, we received an increasing amount of requests coming from the international film festival circuit. Because they, of course, were thinking of moving the whole festival, the event, to an online-only event. And of course, if you want to then showcase VR cinema, there were no tools, or at least no easy and budget-friendly tools to enable those festivals to showcase VR cinema in the headset. So last year already, we had a product called VR Gallery, which basically is a Netflix kind of interface where brands can customize this grid. You can have different grids, which lends it perfectly to the requirement of the first festival that reached out. So during the presentation, I will always use two words. Either will say an immersive site, either I will say an immersive video. So the two festivals that collaborated with us, we developed an immersive site for them. A little bit of a recap why it's interesting for them as well to use the browser and not develop an application, which is of course a different way to distribute your highly curated cinematic content. Of course, it's easy. So the festivals, they want their content to be online for 1 week or 2 weeks or maximum 1 month, which is quite unusual even. So to build an app for an experience that is available for 1 week, it doesn't make any sense. So I think that was one of the biggest triggers for those festivals to say, okay, apps, no way, that's not going to be applicable to us. And of course, you also have the element of monetization, which was less applicable to the festivals, but also, of course, important to mention. If you have, if you want to monetize highly curated cinematic content, and if you're working on different mobile stores or even the Oculus store, there is a split revenue model that is applied for iTunes and Google, for example, is at 30%. One big caveat that I always mention also to festivals when they were discussing the setting up an immersive site or video is the fact that we can of course make video available and make it stream in the best possible way, but in the end it's all depending on the latency and the buffering. It's all depending on the hardware that the end client is using and the internet connection that is available. So the first festival we collaborated with, and some of you might know the festival. It's called Electric Africa, and it's organized by Electric South, which is an NGO in South Africa. So they approached us because they had 13 experiences in 3 degrees of freedom that they wanted to make available for Africa only. So they had a geo-blocking request, and they had a request to enable 13 experiences at once to be available in an interface that was inviting. So For them as well, important to note, was the mobile device a very important entry device. So the way that people would experience the cinema first would be the mobile. So we focused a lot in our development and in our testing for on as well the Chrome browser as the Safari browser, to make sure that the player worked really well across different internet connections and browsers across these mobile devices. So how did it look like? So on the left, you see the mobile device, you see the interface. So it's vertical scrolling. In the hamburger logo on the left at the top, you see the different categories. And then in the middle, you see the desktop version. And here it comes very close to what I mentioned before, the gallery grid option, horizontal, that is comparable to Netflix. Basically, you can access it on the browser, on your desktop, quite easy. So here I included a recording. Let me go back. No, the recording comes later. So here you have the player then, and here you have the recording. So why am I showing recording? Because this was also set up as an immersive site for, I think, 5 days even. So we made a re-recording to make sure that we could show off later. So you have the description page, and then you have the watch the experience button. And here basically our technology identifies the device streaming the content. So in this case, it's desktop. This is the mobile recording, like I've shown a second ago. Categories, you select one piece, then there's a description page with all the credits and more information related to the piece. And then of course, you can actually press start experience. And then there was a viewing in as well, portrait as landscape. So of course here you have to either move your phone or drag and drop. The most interesting part of what we have developed at this immersive site is that it's of course also available in the headset. We focus on HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, but as well Oculus Go and Oculus Quest devices. And we were particularly proud about the way it looked in the Oculus Quest. The Oculus Go, yes, you still see that it was developed a bit earlier and the resolution was less high in general. So we were particularly proud in how it looked in the Oculus Quest 2. So here is a recording of the Oculus Quest 2. Maybe I should go back and show you here. Important step is that it's an immersive site, so URL made available across 3 devices. When you make this website available in the headset, you see the VR goggles icon appear. This is not available on desktop because, of course, you cannot take up your laptop and start watching. So there's no movement there. So you will not see the VR goggles icon. You will see it on the devices that allow you to move around. So it will be available on desktop, on mobile and VR headset. So here you see this, that with the controllers, you click on the VR goggles icon, and then you immediately see that this website, this immersive site, becomes available in 3D, so you can look around. Important to notice that on the UX UI level, we didn't have a lot of time. So the request came in very last minute. So basically we couldn't really start experimenting with how will this menu or this Netflix kind of grid look like in 3D, because we actually could have developed something different. But because of time, we didn't have a chance to do that. So here you see one of the pieces that was shown by the festival. It's called Farange, one of my favorite
You were
ones,
the soundtrack of my childhood.
It starts with this Ethiopian disco music. It's really well done, very magical word that is created. So I would definitely recommend to see it if you didn't watch it in the previous season. The second festival is the Geneva International Film Festival. Here the request was a bit different. So for them, we developed a library, again, fully web VR, powered, but it was a library that was not made available for a whole continent like with Electric Africa. So it was actually only available for people who subscribed or who asked for an accreditation. And then we would send them an email with their login and password. So it was a bit more private, more exclusive, but the experience available were a lot higher. So in total, I think it was 32 pieces. You see on the screenshot that there's a distinction made between 3 degrees of freedom and 6 degrees of freedom. Before you get very excited about the fact that we made 6 degrees of freedom available across the browser, across 3 devices, that wasn't available. So we thought about it and we invested actually time in it to make it available, but we didn't have the time to go into strong testing. Also, you have to almost reach out to the content creators to see if you can receive the assets to translate the piece into fully WebVR piece. So it's not an easy task. So we kind of focused on the 3 degrees of freedom part, and for the 6 degrees of freedom, we basically asked the content creators to send us a 3 degrees of freedom trailer so they can watch it in the headset still. So here the branding is, of course, Geneva International Film Festival. Like I mentioned, 200 professionals received an email invitation, and then they could log in to the library. It was available on three platforms, so they could log in on desktop, mobile, or in the headset. This was the authentication screen. And then basically how it looked like. Again, on the right, you have a mobile phone. This was less of an important device for GIF, because for them it was really the objective to have people watch it in the headset browser, basically. Again, the same steps. So you have a grid, an overview, categories, then you have the description page, and then you have the start experience button. One new element that we have introduced is called device detection, of technology that we have introduced. Because people sign up and sign in, we could recognize a user, and in this way we could also recognize which device they have signed into. So imagine that you have signed in on your mobile on the GIF library, and you have signed in on the headset. It means that once that the experience that you are watching on your mobile, you could, for example, say, okay, this looks nice, but of course this will look a lot more impressive in the headset. And then you can easily switch devices without in the headset going back to the menu, start looking for the experience. Like I said, there are 32, so it becomes a bit more complex. So you could easily shift devices and actually resume the experience that you had selected. So it was a completely novel feature that we launched for the Geneva International Film Festival. What is also important, and not only important for us, and it was also a big area of development, is basically the menu in the headset. So of course, if you're on desktop and mobile, people intuitively know how to use the controls, but in the headset, it's a bit more challenging. So with the controllers, you could select the burger button or the hamburger button on the floor, because that was made available. Once you looked at the floor, the burger button popped up. You could select it, and then the menu, the control menu appeared in the middle with the title of the piece, and then the regular buttons. You could fast forward, you go back, you could lower the volume. But what's also important is that there was a steering wheel, basically, icon that we included for the resolution. So the resolution, the technology that we have used is called adaptive streaming. So it means that the higher the internet connection that is available and your hardware is supporting, the better the resolution. So it will jump up to the maximum. In this case, it would be 2048p. If it's lower, then it would just jump back, because this is a bit our vision, although we know that that some people might not have the strongest internet connection or hardware available, they're still able to see something. There might be critics who are saying, okay, but then people are watching my experience in a very low or in a resolution that I'm not actually comfortable with. That is of course a downside. So it's always a bit like, how many people do you want to reach? And of course there's a bit of a trade-off with the highest possible quality that your piece will be made available in. One big upside here is that, of course, we're talking about Wi-Fi connections in Europe internationally, 4G if you're on the move, but also 5G. So 5G internet connections at home, for example, if you could just use that connection to watch VR in a headset, it will be immediately a lot more stable and of a higher quality. In terms of browsers, we receive this question a lot. It's a dynamic market, the browser vendor market. So Chrome is quite open quite open in terms of when they're going to release a new browser version and what will be the changes and how will it impact the WebXR standard. On the other hand, we have companies like Apple and Safari where it's a bit more like a black box, and we always need to fix after the change has happened. So we continuously strive for making sure that the experiences and the platform now is always up to date. So we always say for the latest versions of the browser vendors that are available. So Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari. For desktop VR, we recommend to use Chrome. Firefox is also possible, but less stable. And then, of course, our favorite browser today is the Oculus browser by Facebook, that is made available on the Go and the 2 Quests. 360 Film Festival, South by Southwest, Lichter Film Festival. So this is just a snapshot of festivals who have worked with us since the 2 immersive sites, basically, that we have built for Electric Africa and GIF. So here, I'm not going to talk about sites, I'm going to talk about video. So the immersive sites that we have built for the 2 festivals that I just mentioned, have showcased, it took a lot of development time. It was basically a new site that we have built for them with their branding, and yeah, it takes a while. There's a lot of testing involved. It's quite an engagement, and a less complex task or development would be immersive video. And this is also has been the focus area of LucidWeb Pro, is basically allowing people not to build an immersive site with our platform, but to build an immersive video with it. So the first festival that reached out that said, okay, we don't have the budget nor the time to build such an immersive site, but we do want to showcase the cinema that we have selected in the headset, is a 360 Film Festival, or Satis, from Paris. So they basically use our platform to generate a URL and then integrate this URL into their website. So again, this is a recording in the Oculus Quest 2. You will see that their website is just showing as a 2D website in the headset browser. So this is how every website looks like. Here you have the different VR pieces. They built this description page themselves. And then they integrated our URL into an orange button. And this orange button then opens up our player. And here, of course, the extra step is that people, again, need to click the VR with this icon. So basically go from a 2D viewing experience in the browser of a headset to a 3D viewing experience. So, of course, this is a recording. You can watch. This is the recording of the person deciding where to watch. It's, again, a very interesting, a very beautiful piece by Francis Galina. in the land of the Snappy Snook. I'm always a bit wrong with the title. But again, here, what is important is that they've integrated the URL in a normal web page. So it's an immersive video, but it's just a video. And then MIT DokuBase. So this is a project that has been also under radar for a while. Why? Because MIT wanted to make kind of a selection of the best pieces of VR, and then discuss with them if it was possible to have their projects live on their website for minimum a year. So I'm not sure if you know MIT DokuBase, but it's definitely a website that you should check out in the case that you're interested in interactive storytelling. There are a lot of dokus and yeah, non-fiction dokus where they use the latest technologies to excel or to showcase unique stories from all around the world. And DokuBase, their angle is that they're then based upon that they're showing the piece, they're also giving more information and a lot more feedback around how it was created. So there is really a lot more background information on the technical aspects of building such a narrative. So MIT DokuBase, they reached out to a couple of to the creators of the best VR cinema in the world, in 3 Degrees of Freedom, of course. Some of the stories that are on the website and made available via our technology is Notes of Blindness, but also Bloodless, The Other Decade, This is Climate Change. So in total, 10 pieces are now available, and as well Accused Number 2, Walter Sisulu, that I originally discovered in Amsterdam, is now also available via our technology. So I'm quite proud because the original vision when I started with LucidWeb in 2017 was that at that point in time, the Samsung headset and the apps that were available in the store and the stories that were available, they were all American, and it was not always the best VR available. And at that point in 2017, I was like, okay, how can we showcase stories that are coming from all over the world and not specifically from Hollywood, for example, for VR. So I'm quite proud that we're 4 years later, that now 10 of the best VR stories are available for 1 year for everyone for free, and you can discover them on 3 devices. So desktop, mobile, and headset. And of course, being a VR enthusiast, I would definitely recommend to watch those experiences in the latest headsets like the Quest 2. You will not even notice a difference with an app-based experience in the same headset. So definitely recommend to go to dokubase.mit.edu and check those experiences that are listed. We're going to send out a press release related to our collaboration next week. So this is a bit of a scoop. So that's it, basically. So yeah, I think if you're interested in our technology and how easy it is to use, then I would definitely recommend you to sign up on lucidweb.pro. Free trial account for everyone available. If you want to have if you want to experiment a bit more, you can always reach out to me directly via leen@lucidweb.io, and then I can lift some of our limits so you can have more stories available via our technology. I think what's left for me to say is to thank the organization for inviting me to speak here today. And I hope I will see you all in real life soon at a conference across Europe or internationally in 2022. The organization has asked me to follow up on a couple of questions that they prepared related, of course, to WebXR. So I will just read the first one. So the first one is there a spec sheet for the maximum resolutions of 360 video supported by LucidWeb? Is spatial audio supported? So how we have progressed with the festivals the last couple of months is that, of course, we received a lot of questions related to the specs, the content requirement specs. So what we have provided is a sheet, a content requirement sheet that they could use to reach out to the content creators, studios, or the publishers responsible for the works. So it's easier for them to collect the piece and upload it on LucidWeb Pro. In terms of resolutions, what we always said is that we want to showcase the highest possible resolution in the headset, so it navigates towards 4K. So if the content creator has a piece available in MP4 in 4K, then we would definitely recommend to receive that version. The festival organizer uploads that piece into LucidWeb Pro, and then as part of our transcoding engine, different versions of that one piece in 4K are created. We create approximately around 55 versions, with of course all lower resolutions. So in case of the adaptive streaming, if that kicks in, if the internet connection is not strong enough, or in case of the hardware, a lower resolution can be shown. So to respond to the question, the highest resolution possible should be uploaded on LucidWeb Pro, and then we take care of the lower resolution versions. The problem sometimes is that content creators don't have a 2K version or don't have a 4K version, and then it becomes more messy because, of course, we transcode it to lower resolutions. But if it's if we only receive the low version, the lower versions, of course, the way the piece will be shown in the headset will be a bit more tricky. So then it might be a very good version for mobile or desktop, but not for the headset. So what we always say is the highest resolution possible. In terms of spatial audio, it's not standard available on the platform yet, but we do have some features that we call beta flags. So we're still learning what the impact is of spatial audio. So it is available. So if we turn on this beta flag, we can activate it. The problem that we noticed is that it lowers sometimes the resolution, or it increases the latency because the video file or the whole processing activity is a lot higher. So yes, there's definitely areas that we still need to fine tune, and in terms of development, to see if spatial audio is active. Does it impact the visual quality? The second question that I received: among the many use cases for LucidWeb between film festivals, enterprise training, travel and tourism, what area do you predict will see the most growth over the next year, and why? So the reason why we actually are focusing on cinematic VR content is because this content was already built before COVID. Some pieces were built in 2016, 2017, 18. So it takes a while for all these stories to go to the different stages from idea to distribution, and we're at the end. So all these pieces are pre-COVID made. The reason why the platform is therefore showing all these cinematic pieces is because of COVID. You couldn't travel, but also 2D content fell. So definitely this is one of the reasons why the industry is still impacted today, is you need to go somewhere to do a 360 recording. So which area do you see the most growth over the next year? It all depends on these conditions. Will it be easy to go somewhere with a camera to do a recording? So if all the elements of mobility are solved, I think there would be definitely a spike again in travel and tourism next to film festivals. In terms of enterprise training, definitely. This should also be a lot more easy to accommodate. But we see the distribution element, the WebVR distribution element, the biggest advantage. We see the most advantages basically in more B2B2C and less B2B. Why enterprise training? It requires you to authenticate. There needs to be a high level of security. So it's a bit in contrast with easy access for festivals and tourism and travel. So I think for us as a company and WebVR, we focus on festivals, travel, and tourism. What are the main advantages of WebXR as a platform? This is the third question. So yes, I think I mentioned it as well in my talk, direct access, one click, simple. People don't necessarily have time nor storage capability to download an app. I like to compare with, I like to sometimes tell the story of my mother and her phone. She basically doesn't know that she's working in a browser. She just types in a question in her phone and she doesn't know it's powered by Safari, for example. So people are not necessarily aware whether or not they're using an app or a browser. They're just looking for information, or they're just looking for a website or a way to buy something online. So they're not necessarily aware of an app versus a browser. And therefore, I think it's quite key for as well WebVR and WebAR that they're available there as well. So they don't necessarily need to think about, I want to watch VR or want to watch AR. It's just an experience, a link made available in an environment that they already were looking for. So it's quite intuitive, and you have a lot more serendipity as opposed to, okay, I'm going to download an app because I want to have this visual experience. So yes, I think that is definitely on a consumer level. It's easy, it's accessible, don't have to think about it. And then as a publisher, the same thing. It's if you have to build an app across your devices, it takes a lot of time. You have to, in terms of time, but also in terms of budget. The apps need to be updated. They need to become available in the store. And I think you might have known, or the stories about the Oculus store, how long it takes to have an app approved. Same for Apple, less with Google Play, but still you have to have all these processes in line. And if you have a campaign that needs to go out today, then it's definitely not an option. So I think it's just in general removing the frictions as well for the publisher, as well for the audience. Okay, those were my questions for today. I hope you've learned a bit. And again, like with my previous presentation, feel free to sign up on lucidweb.pro. Bye.
Thank you to Leen. It was so kind of her to record her Q&A so that we could hear from her. And yes, well, that concludes our speakers presentations for today, but that's not all that we have. I'll let Brian.
Okay, I'll just like to say thank you to all our speakers, to Gabe, to Richard, to Kai, Thomas, Julie, and Leen. We've so appreciated you having you with us and taking your time to help our members learn about WebXR and the power of the immersive web and the possible futures that offers. So we'd love you to join us again on the virtual campus if you still have a bit of time left, and explore. It will be open, and we'll be there for a few minutes at least to chat with people. So thanks again for being with us for such a long event, and we hope in the future to have more events using this technology. So over to Rachel to say goodbye.
Yes, just to echo Brian, thank you to all of our amazing speakers and to our attendees who are here with us today. It's been so inspiring. I don't know how you all are feeling, but I'm just like wanting to try all of these tools and experiment with them. I just wanted to say that as we continue at IVRPA to expand our online offerings, we love your feedback. So be on the lookout for a follow-up survey where you can share your thoughts on today's event. And just remember, we are run by volunteers, so we respond well to constructive criticism. Be sure to also explore our website, ivrpa.org. And we're planning more webinars, a virtual conference for 2021. And we really encourage any non-members here with us today to go over to our website to become a member. So yes, with that, let's move on over to the virtual campus and explore more there.